and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone for coming tonight. Does anyone have anything they want to address with the board before we start?
I'm sure you'll, or I'm guessing you'll cover it. I was just hoping to see what the status might be of any merger with Old Fort.
We're kind of just in hold on that right now. We're waiting to hear from the senator's office. I believe is where we stand. We've submitted our 5-year forecast of the two districts if we come together, what the finances would look like. Presented that to him, and now we're just waiting to hear.
Okay, thanks.
Any projections on that? You might get that answer. A month out or 2 months out?
I actually just learned today, we anticipated that answer by March 31st, but I actually just learned today that it could be extended, so we really don't know, but we'll get an answer for that.
Building principals report.
I gave you the progress monitoring piece for Race to the Top. We met with our consultant on Tuesday, Diana and Jim West and I met, and he gave us an update on where we stand as far as how our kids have progressed due to the money that we got. And they've increased a little bit. Most Race to the Top schools have kept even or have exceeded the non-Race to the Top schools, because those are the schools that are wealthier and don't get all that money. So the kids are doing well. Our 3rd grade reading guarantee from last year, our kids actually exceeded, they came in at 90% and they exceeded the state rate, so well done. We're currently doing our math testing, finishing that up March 24th, and that's our 3rd and final session for this year. And the last thing I have is I wanted to thank the Salem Church on 590 there, because they provided breakfast for our kids who are taking the OGTs. They brought pancakes, eggs, and different things in every day that the kids have tests. So just want to thank them.
Athletic director report. Oh, go ahead.
Second page, measure student growth, the potential obstacles of this. Is that something that you guys noted, or is that what they noted?
Everything that's on there is my comments.
Okay.
The only thing that comes from them is that last column, and Ralph has not done anything yet.
So now someone else saw that. And noted that.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. That was kind of a team comment, I should say.
Athletic director report.
Biggest thing going on right now is spring sports. I know some of you have heard softball season has been canceled. We had enough, and then I had a couple girls we practiced the other day and say they no longer wanted to play, so we were down to 8 girls, and nothing I can do with that. So we do now have 16 kids on the track team. All of the girls went to track, so we're a huge track team this year. So.
Treasurer's report.
Well, I can tell you that I normally have something prepared, however, and kind of every other thing that's happening, and we're not getting a chance to do that. But what I do want to do is quickly go over the things that are included in my recommendation, so you kind of understand that. The first is, obviously we have to approve the minutes. However, we have found that there were several minutes that had not been approved by the board yet. So those are listed, and I believe Joe gave you a copy of each of those. The next one is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates of the tax levies. This is something that should be done every year. I gave you, that's that piece of paper that has a lot of numbers. I always review it. It looks okay to me in comparison with last year, so that's why it's on the agenda for tonight. There is a recommendation to enter into a shared services agreement with Old Fort for myself and the payroll clerk. I do not have time, or at this point, to be honest, the ability to do payroll on top of managing both districts, so that's why there's a need for both of us. I think I may have left those at Old Fort, Mickey, but there might be in my office. And on top of that, so we have to pass a resolution for the shared services agreement between Bettsville and Old Fort. But Bettsville also has to approve a contract for myself as interim treasurer, and all it basically says is that you're contracting my service through Old Fort, and that my pay and everything will be through Old Fort, and you will pay them accordingly. This may or may not be something new for you. Whenever the athletic department or any other department needs to borrow money from the general fund, it has to be done through board resolution, and it has to be done in the form of a transfer. It's the only legal way to do it, so that's why you'll see that going forward. I'm not sure how it was done in the past, but that's how I see it going forward. So what happened was there were 3 checks, 2 for $55 and 1 for $5 that made the athletic account go negative. So I had to transfer funds from our budgetary account to the athletic fund to cover those expenses. And that's what those are for. Because you have some new board members and because you have new terms, you have to delegate the treasurer, or in this case the interim treasurer, to go to certified public records training on your behalf. Unless you want to sit through that on your own, I'd be happy to let you do that, because that's pretty grueling. The next 2 are really just services that we use on a yearly basis, and we're starting to get contracts in for the 14-15 school year. And then the last thing is, at some point, it was decided by this board to put a resolution on and put a levy on the ballot. That levy equated to about $50,000 in revenue for the district. I've been in contact with ODE, with our fiscal consultant, and with the commission for fiscal emergency, and I don't know how to say this really nicely, but when you're $775,000 in debt, $50,000 is laughable. I mean, if I'm being honest with you. So their recommendation and mine to the board is that we remove this from the ballot this year, or for May, and then we can put a new one on, but we need to put a new one on for one that's more feasible to help offset this deficit. What we don't want to do is go back to the taxpayers 5, 6, 7, 8 times and ask them for $50,000 here and $50,000 there, because they don't like that. Let's be honest. I mean, I don't want to be asking for new money every time we go on a ballot. So it didn't look like we were going to be able to, but I got a call this afternoon that we are able to remove that from the ballot. It may still show up on the ballot, but there will be a little asterisk by it that says it's null and void. It will not be counted, not be for or against the district. So to do that, I have to pass a resolution tonight, and then Mickey has a paper that all of you have to sign in order to get that removed, and then I'll hand deliver that tomorrow to the county election office, Board of Elections. So are there any questions about the things that I'm doing, saying?
The contracts with Fiscal County Board of Development, Disabilities in North Central, how is that effective if this merger does go through and the state comes in and says, we can forgive this?
If that happens, then Bettsville will cease to exist, and therefore any contract with Bettsville would be null and void. We would owe any money that was due up to that date, but going forward, nothing would be. And both of these are as needed, so we don't even know for sure if we'll have a kid in there. But
on C, on the shared services for you and a payroll clerk, is that for Jane?
yes,
And what is Joe doing?
Joe's doing EMIS and accounts payable, and she helps in the cafeteria.
The checks that were made to let the athletic fund go negative, what were those for too?
Pretty sure they were just for
Were they deliberately
officials.
written to go negative? I mean, didn't they, the previous previous treasurer know that there was negative balance there, or there's nothing there, and issue these?
I don't know.
I don't know what days were dated and when we went negative in the account, or.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The other thing I did want to tell you is that we did receive our solvency funds of $775,000, and I have been working as fast as I can to get all of those payments out, so that we don't incur any more late fees or, service charges, things like that. So we're at the tail end of them. We've sent out probably 90% of them at this point. So hopefully moving forward we'll be able to maintain a little bit.
I have a question, Jamie. I know that we have a student at Flat Rock that's there all year round. Do we have other students there? No?
I believe it's only one. I don't know that for sure.
Just the one.
I'll motion.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
sorry. Mrs. Hunker?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Superintendent's report and recommendations.
I just had a couple things. I just wanted to comment that I think that the treasurer's office has just been great since the transition. Working together, it's just really been awesome. So we're real pleased with that for both districts. The other thing that I have is the revised contingency plan that I handed out. Some of you got the email, but it is not a law that we have to have a resolution to approve that, but it's recommended that they do. So maybe we might do that at the next meeting. We don't necessarily have to do it tonight, but I just wanted to, I did turn this into the state as our contingency plan now because they requested it. But that is how we're making up the dates. Those are the dates that we were closed on the left, what they were replaced by in the middle, and then the replacement date that it happened, and how we replaced it on the right-hand side. So just wanted to get that to you. And we may or may not bring it for board resolution approval next month, depending on, a lot of times suddenly you'll get more emails that saying, well, you don't need to do this, you do need to do it, and until they come to a conclusion on if you have to do it or not, but there it is. But that's all I have.
You missed 16 days of school this year.
What's that?
You missed 16 days of school.
Yeah. One of them, am I remembering correctly, didn't we have a fog day? Didn't we have one day where the fog didn't lift until like noon or something? But one of them was fog way back in November or whatever it was. But I think that December 16th date was a fog day. But anyway.
You have blanks there, are you anticipating the fog days?
The average, statewide, the average was 12. So that's a lot for state average. So even the schools down in southern Ohio and stuff, they had quite a few themselves. And then, of course, this winter did set a record for snowfall and everything.
I do recommend that we pass this because even though maybe it's not required for the snow days, it is required if we change our calendar, that the board approves a change in calendar. So I think it's just better that we pass a resolution and then we're safe either way. Just my opinion.
And like I said, we could either do that, if you wanted to do it tonight, or we could do it at the next meeting. I don't think we need.
There's no anticipation for any changes with contingency.
As far as I know.
Unless there's more days.
Yeah.
Well, do you already have it set? Would it be the 3rd, 4th of June?
have
If
more
we
days?
miss more,
Yeah, it would be, well, the third is the only one under contract that's listed right now, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, our
That it would
contract
be
reads,
fourth,
it
fifth.
would be the next couple days.
so you're not gonna dip
consecutive.
into any of the spring break or anything, you're gonna just extend
Well,
the year if that's
the
the case?
one, the.
Well,
the,
other than
uh,
that, but you're not gonna touch any of the rest of it?
Right, the
Okay.
April 22nd, that's one of the spring break.
That was put in our calendar.
That was in the calendar. But yeah, no, we will not. Those will be that's where we're at right now. If we would have another snow day, yes, it would be June 3rd, and then 4th, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, most districts wanted to stay away from adding a half hour at the end of the day. I know Old Fort in particular, with their interim superintendent anyway, we were talking about it, and they, you know, it messes up your bus schedules, it messes up babysitting schedules and everything. So most districts stayed away from that. With the exception of my son in another district, he wasn't too happy about it, but going later in the day. But so yeah, to answer your question, Lee, that it would be the 3rd and the 4th, and et cetera. But we're not going to have it more, right?
Toledo did the same thing.
Yeah.
Their elementary is 15 minutes earlier in the morning and 15 minutes later in the day. I don't know what you can get accomplished in that, but, and then junior high on up is tacked on a half an hour at the end of the day. And they're not getting out till June, like, 15th or something.
Right.
It's late.